So, hello everyone. Once again, it is Sergeant Denarius Mitchell. Thank you for tuning in for the next episode of The More You Know. Today I have Captain Latta with me. Hopefully I said that correct. Is that right, ma'am? Is that that's how you pronounce your name?
Yes, it is.
Awesome, awesome. I'm always messing up names. So, if you don't mind, ma'am, just give me a brief introduction about yourself and we'll go on from there.
All right. So I'm Captain Alicia Latta. I am originally from Idaho. I did my undergrad in Idaho, and I went to medical school at a DO program in Washington. And I just matched and have started my intern year in internal medicine at Wright-Patternson Air Force Base.
Awesome. Once again, congratulations with that. I know matching is a huge accomplishment. So with that, ma'am, so when you started the whole HPSP process, when you contacted your recruiter, did you have a certain specialty in mind or was it just like whatever?
So from a young age and even going into medical school, I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. Even starting my third year when clinical rotations, I still thought I wanted to do pediatrics. And peds was my second rotation. And, I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't for me. And then my next rotation was internal medicine, and I absolutely fell in love with it and knew that that was the route I was going to go.
So I guess with that, like you said, you were going to be a pediatrician your entire life until your third year. So I guess what happened during that rotation to make you change your mind?
I think the biggest thing is what you experience as a doctor in a specific field might be very different than that mindset you have going in. And so what changed it for me was it was a lot of very healthy kiddos and well child checks, which was great. But I realized that I really wanted to treat more sickness. And so it just was the right feel for me.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So, and I know you said your third year and your fourth year is when you did your rotations. Is that correct?
Yes. So third year of medical school, you do your rotations and all your different core specialties.
Okay. So how did that work, ma'am? Did the Air Force give you a list of specialties they were looking at for that year, your third year, and you just applied?
So during your third year, those are going to be all of the rotations your school requires you to do.
Okay.
So that's usually family medicine, internal medicine, surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, pediatrics, psychiatry, and then if you're at a DO program, you usually have to do a couple weeks in OPP or that specialty that you do. And so those are all through your school and not through the Air Force yet. That doesn't start till fourth.
Okay, awesome. See, you just taught me something new. I greatly appreciate that. So I guess how many do you have to do at your schools and how many do you have to do with the Air Force?
So your school is going to have you do all of those specific rotations to figure out what you want to do. And then the Air Force sort of doesn't interact with you until your fourth year. And then that's when you start going through specialties with them. And so for them, you specifically do two audition rotations in your specialty of choice.
Okay. So when you say audition, that means that you are applying to show up, do your rotations, and hopefully being selected for that residency?
Exactly.
Okay.
So you audition for audition for residency by going to these places and spending a month working.
Okay. Okay. So that's 45 days after the training.
Yeah.
There we go. See, I slipped that in there. So nice transition. So with that, ma'am, how was the travel cost taken care of? Did you have to come out of pocket or did the Air Force cover everything?
That is a great question. So I guess to take a step back, as a 4-year HPSP scholarship, I had 4 active duty rotations. My first was my officer training between first and second year. And during that, as soon as you get your orders, you call up the travel agency that the Air Force works with. And they schedule your air flight for you, so you don't have to buy a plane ticket. And then while you're at officers training, you stay in the dorms at Maxwell Air Force Base. And so you don't pay for anything out of pocket there.
Nice. Okay.
Then my other 3 active duty rotations, one of them was a 2-week course at Wright-Patternson Air Force Base for aero and space medicine.
Okay.
And then my last 2 rotations were my audition rotations. One I did down in San Antonio at Brooke Army Medical Center, and then my other I did at Wright-Patternson Air Force Base. So for those 3 rotations, again, the Air Force pays for your flight. And then I booked a car rental and a hotel, and I paid for them up front, and then the Air Force reimbursed it completely.
Okay.
They also pay for food while you're there, and you're on active duty pay, so you're getting paid as a second lieutenant.
Okay, awesome. See, ma'am, thank you for validating that information, because I get that question a lot. Well, am I coming out of the pocket? I really don't believe you, Sergeant Mitchell. You're just telling me whatever to get me to sign up. So thank you for just telling everyone that, hey, once again, Sergeant Mitchell is being completely honest with everyone. I'd like to step back too, ma'am, to talk about the rotations. Exactly what's going on during those military rotations? Like, are you wearing a uniform? Are you getting interviewed? Are you working? What's going on? What can they expect?
So during your audition rotations, you are in uniform.
Okay.
The new OCPs, and you arrive in the morning, and you usually change out of your OCPs and put on scrubs, and
Okay.
you spend the day working with the interns, so those newest residents as well as the older level residents. You're seeing
Okay.
patients, just doing everything that you do sort of as a doctor. And then while you're there, you usually do interview with the program before you leave,
Okay.
for that potential residency spot.
Okay. So do you kind of have any, I guess, information for anyone who's going to go through that interview process? How can they make themselves stand out to be selected for that specialty?
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand how the military does their match system. So the military match is on a point system.
Okay.
So it's worth 10 points per person that looks at your application. So for a total of 30 points.
Okay.
Your first set of points come from your first 2 years of medical school. So those are your grades, your step 1 or level 1 score.
Okay.
And that's worth 0 to 2 points, 2 being the max you can get. Then the next set of points comes from your 3rd year. So that's going to be your clinical core rotations from school and your level 2 or step 2 score. Okay. And that is worth 0 to 3 points. So now you're at a total of potentially 5 points. And then the last section of your match application comes from this sort of category that's how well do you do on those audition rotations and how well do you do it doing your interview. So that's worth 5 points. Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing for that is really working hard when you're on those audition rotations, coming in early, writing notes to help your residents out. Always asking, is there something else I can help with? Is there anything I can do before I go home at the end of the day? But just really getting to know the residents, because they're the ones that sort of also interact with the program directors and can put a good word for you. So
I'm glad you said about working hard, ma'am, because I had a young man I spoke to a couple of months ago. He told me he had amazing grades, but he showed up, he was lazy, didn't work hard, and he did not get selected for that, that residency. So you have to work hard. It's gonna be, I have amazing grades, I can get there and just kick my feet up and just be a dirtbag airman. Like, no, they will not select you for that specialty. Also, thank you once again for answering those questions. So I guess, ma'am, going back to one of the 45 days of active duty training, commissioning officer training school, I get a lot of questions about that. People are freaking out. What can they expect? Are they getting yelled at? Is it like Full Metal Jacket? Is it easy because we're the Air Force, we're the chair force? Or what can they expect?
So it is definitely a very scary process before you get there. And I would be lying if I said that I wasn't scared. I definitely broke down and cried in the airport right before I left because I didn't know what to expect. And I had an amazing time there. So you are there for, I think it's about 5 weeks, if I remember correctly.
You're
And
correct.
yeah, during that time, you learn about the history of the Air Force. You learn how to be a leader. And so you do things like obstacle courses where you have to lead your group through like these different things and don't let them jump in the water or whatever it might be. You work on your fitness. So we go on group runs in the morning. Usually there's a workout every day, and every Friday there's a long run with the entire group. What else? You get to go sort of explore some of the local area down in Montgomery, Alabama. So we got to go to a museum that sort of talked about some of the Air Force history. So you do a lot of really great stuff. You learn how to march while you're there, which is something I did not know how to do. It can be scary. There is the philosophy that they kind of want to break you down to build you back up with these leadership skills. But I was never yelled at. But if I forgot to take off my cover when I walked into the BX or whatever it might have been, I was reminded of that. So but nobody was coming and banging on my door at 4 a.m, screaming in my face like they do in the movies. It's not like that.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that, because I tell everyone it's not like Full Metal Jacket. The first week is always the hardest because you do not know what to expect. But once you get that set routine, it's extremely easy, and those 5 weeks will fly by. I joined on the enlisted side, of course. I went to Wright-Patternson Air Force Base. I can tell you the first night I was like, I want to go home. But but it got easier after that. Like I said, once I got that routine set, making my bed, working out, dining facility, academic work, those 6 weeks flew by. And one thing, ma'am, I hate to jump back to specialties again, because I always pops in my head these questions that I get. So people are always worried about, okay, let's say I want to do this specialty, but the Air Force needs more people in this one. Will the Air Force make me go into this specialty when I have no desire?
That is a great question. The Air Force is never going to force you into a specialty that you have no desire to be in. What could happen is if you applied for, say, orthopedic surgery, and there were only 5 spots, and you were not selected for that spot, they could ask you to do either a civilian residency, or they can ask you to spend a year in a transitional year. So that transitional year would just be a year as like an internal medicine doctor, and then you reapply the upcoming cycle. But they will not force you into a career you don't want for the rest of your life. They don't do that.
Thank you. So when you said the internal medicine, is that the GMO, the General Medical Officer? Is that something different?
That is something different. A GMO will go and work on a base somewhere treating sort of your general healthy airmen that just need physicals. So those are like flight physicals is the big thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So a little bit different.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that clarification. And I do have one more question for you, ma'am. I know it's a 4-day weekend. I'm trying to get you back out in the sun so you can enjoy this 4th of July. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about potentially, applying for this scholarship?
So I have absolutely no regrets doing this scholarship. And if I were to do it all over again, I definitely would. If you have interest in serving your country and being able to practice medicine, I think it's a great route to go. The Air Force gives you all of these awesome learning opportunities. You have the opportunity to travel the country and to travel the world. And you get to make these really great connections with all these different people. So, for example, I just moved to Ohio 2 months ago, and one of the first people that I hung out with here was somebody who was in my flight at officer training. So you make these friendships that last. Yeah. So I think that this HPSP scholarship is really a great opportunity, not only to pay for your tuition and not have to worry about that, but to sort of open these doors for future opportunities.
Awesome. The Air Force is truly small. Like I said, you could be stationed somewhere and someone you with the BMT with. But I did lie. One more question. So why did you select the Air Force over the Army and Navy?
So I wish I had a great answer for that. The main reason I chose it was my grandfather was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. And so I just had a family and emotional connection to the Air Force.
That's a good reason, ma'am. It's a very good reason. But once again, ma'am, thank you for taking time out of your 4-day weekend to answer these questions. And hopefully people watching this video on YouTube will find it very informative. Once again, ma'am, congratulations on recently matched in your first assignment, and you will have a wonderful Air Force career.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.